Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, the #1 YouTube channel for you to level up your communication skills, learn the art of public speaking, social skills, and personal branding to take your message to the world. For today's episode, we're entering the world of psychology, and I'm going to be talking about the Pratfall Effect. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit subscribe right on below for 3 weekly videos on how to become a better communicator. The Pratfall Effect is one of these laws that you need to become very familiar with when dealing with humans. Because when dealing with humans, there's a lot of times when there's high pressure situations. Let me give you 2 examples. One example, imagine that you hate public speaking like most of the world does. And the mere thought of giving a speech makes you tremble. You don't like it at all. Well, one day your friend decides that he's going to be getting married and you are chosen as the best man. At first, you're feeling ecstatic. You're feeling very excited that you are the one that's chosen. But as some time passes by, you feel mortified. The speech anxiety starts to kick in and you wonder how you're going to get through this big day. Because there's going to be at least 500 people that you have to give a speech in front of. You start feeling a lot of nerves. And all these nerves are being sent to your brain. Your brain is now overthinking. And whenever you're overthinking, when it deals with humans, you tend to focus a little too much on the words. You start to chase perfection. And when you start to chase perfection, you start becoming more robotic. Your human side starts taking a back burner and you start talking like this and you become very stiff. This typically happens when you chase perfection. Let's talk about another scenario. Let's imagine that you're an entrepreneur and you have been working weeks and weeks trying to close this client. And you finally get this client on the call and you notice how big of a situation this is, how big of a moment this is, and how much of your business relies on closing this client. You start feeling a lot of nerves in your body. The nerves are sent to your brain. You're overthinking and you're starting to chase perfection. You become very robotic. And overall, this starts creeping the client out and they feel as though something is wrong. Has this happened to you? I'm sure it has, because it happens to a lot of people when they are dealing with communication skills. And the reason that this happens is because we became too brain focused. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, the brain takes in a lot of information through the ego. And the ego has a dualistic way of thinking, right or wrong, bad or good. And overall, when you start seeing things too much in this dualistic sort of way, you start to overthink. Well, am I saying the right things? Am I doing the wrong things? Oh no, what's going on? This is not good because you tend to overthink and you take yourself out of the present moment. The goal of becoming a great communicator is to take the journey from the brain to the heart. Because the heart doesn't see life through the ego. There is no right or wrong, left brain or right brain. Instead, the heart just is. And this allows you to have a neutral form of sensations which allow you to leverage the nerves. So for the first situation, when the person is told that they have to give a speech in front of this mega audience, they feel the nerves, but rather than letting the nerves go to their brain, they hold it in their body. They feel the sensations. They realize that the sensations are not killing them and they accept the situation for what it is. And these nerves now serve as energy for the speech that this individual gives in front of the audience. And for this situation, the entrepreneur is able to hold the nerves in their body, feel it, feel the sensations, feel the energy, and this time they're able to use that energy to have more conviction behind their voice so they're able to close the deal. This right here is a huge reason why you want to understand the Pratfall Effect. The Pratfall Effect basically states that humans like humans who act like humans. Translation, humans are not only okay with imperfections, but they prefer it. Have you ever met that one person who seems a little too perfect? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them. Everything seems to be right. Everything seems to be going well in their world. Well, your conscious mind may be okay with that, but your subconscious mind, your feeling-based mind, something seems wrong. You feel as though that this person is putting on an act. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you feel as though that something is being hidden. That is because this person is trying too hard to be perfect. In the communication skills world, perfection is not a good thing. Relying too much on perfection is focusing on the wrong thing, which is why you want to become a heart-based communicator. And one of the best ways to understand how to become a heart-based communicator is to see a situation where imperfections actually won in the long run. I want to tell you a story from a few years back. Around this time, I was serving as a mentor for Toastmasters. And I was in the Toastmasters Club for roughly a year to a year and a half, and I had given a lot of speeches, so I decided that I wanted to level up to becoming a mentor and help other people in their public speaking journey. I had a bunch of different mentees, and one of my mentees was a girl named Lila. Lila was in her early 30s, and you could tell that she was extremely nervous about her icebreaker speech. An icebreaker speech is the first ever speech that you have to give into Toastmasters for the audience to better know who you are. The main goal is to give the audience an understanding about you, so they feel as though they've known you for a long time and you break the ice. She was terrified, a lot of speech anxiety, and as we were going through the practice runs, you could tell that a lot of her focus was on perfection. Armani, what if I forget a point as I'm giving the speech? What if the audience doesn't like me? What if I say, like so? They may judge me. Every single concern that she had was about her. What was the problem with that, Armani? It is her icebreaker speech. The focus should be on her, isn't it? Well, yes and no. There should be certain levels of focus on her, but from her lens, she needs to be focusing on the audience. Her main goal is to make sure that the audience understands who she is as a person, not to give herself a pat on the back for being liked. So I could kind of tell what the problem was. I felt as though what she was talking about, her heart wasn't into it. Because overall, as I was hearing her speech, it felt as though she was just reciting her resume on stage. Oh, I went to this school, I studied this was my major, my first job was this, my first role was this. And overall, it was very dry. It was very, very boring. I didn't want to tell her that it was boring though. So after she got done with a few trials, I asked her, Lila, do you have any hobbies? Like, what do you do outside of work? And she had to think about this for a while. She's like, that's a good question, Armani. No one's ever asked me that. Well, what I like to do, and I still do it to this day, is I like to knit. I was like, knit? Knitting is for old people. She's like, no, it's not for old people. I've been knitting since I was 5 years old. I was like, since you were 5 years old? Knitting, it's so boring. She's like, well, have you ever done it? I was like, no, I've never done it and I don't plan to. She's like, well, if you've never done it, then how do you know it's boring? I was like, I don't know, it just seems like a boring thing to do. And now you could tell that there was a fire that was lit within her. She's like, Armani, it's not boring. Let me explain to you why. And she starts going off on the history of knitting. I didn't even know there was a history, but she knew. And then she starts talking about her family's history in knitting. Her great-great-grandma used to knit. Her grandma used to knit. Her mom used to knit. And her younger sister, they used to knit growing up. And then she pulls out her phone, she pulls up her Instagram, and she starts showing me all of her knitting final products. And I was mind blown because this actually looked very, very good. It wasn't just like the traditional like sock. It was a lot of art, a lot of creativity behind her final works. And during this talk, it went on for 8 to 10 minutes roughly. And a few times in her talk, she did have to think, she did sort of forget a point that she wanted to make. She said, like so, a few times in the speech, but overall, from beginning to end, there was a lot of enthusiasm. You could tell that she truly liked her topic. And when someone truly likes her or their topic, what happens is the observer, aka the audience, they can feel it. You see, humans, we have a thing called mirror neurons. When we see another person going through something, the mirror neurons in our brain gets activated, and once it gets activated, we feel similar sensations. Sort of like when you're watching a sport and the game is going down to the T, you feel those sensations, right? Well, those right there are mirror neurons being activated. With Lila, she had so much enthusiasm for knitting where I felt as though that I knew Lila for a very, very long time simply through the vehicle of her hobby. I told her, look, scrap the first speech. At this point, I knew she was more confident. I was like, look, your first speech is boring. This speech, on the other hand, this is fire. This is very, very good. You need to make the whole speech about your love for knitting. But not only that, on the day of your speech, I want you to bring in some pictures of your final products so the audience members can see it live. She's like, all right, Armani, I'm gonna do that. Well, the day of her speech, not only did she kill it, but she also won a ribbon. For her first ever speech, she won a ribbon. So not only did she win the ribbon, but she broke a limiting belief about chasing perfections. Because during her talk, there were multiple times where she did stutter, she did say filler words. She momentarily forgot about a point, but she kept on going. That right there went on to show that it's all about the value, it's all about the enthusiasm. How much do you like the topic that you're talking about versus trying to say the right words, trying to be liked. And as Lila made certain mistakes, it was drowned out by her enthusiasm, and those mistakes appealed to our subconscious mind. We overall felt as though we've known Lila for a very, very long time. The moral of this story is to not chase perfection, but chase value. Chase all the things that you are in control of. Now I get it, certain times we have to talk about certain topics that we don't have much enthusiasm for. I know this because during my time in engineering, I had to give a lot of speeches on very dry topics. In situations like this, do your best to find a way to make the topic fun. Just use this as a challenge for yourself. Use it as a creativity workout. Because if you can make a boring topic very fun, then you can make a fun topic even more fun. It's a workout for the bigger picture. Overall, do not chase perfection. Chase value. Because hypothetically, let's say you are someone who does chase perfection and the audience does get value out of your speech. They get a lot of value out of it, even though you had the wrong intent from the beginning. Well, what's going to happen after you're done with the speech is even though you gave the audience value, you're going to say, I said a few times, I said like a few times, I didn't do good. Even though you did a great job, you're evaluating the speech from the wrong lens. And what's that going to do is you are now going to attach a negative perception to the act of public speaking. So the next time that you're called on stage, you are going to subconsciously say, I'm not a public speaker. The last time I gave a speech, I didn't do good. Completely undermining how good you did do. Versus the person who's placing more focus, more intention on the value. When they get off stage, their whole focus is, did the audience benefit? Yeah, they did? Okay, I did perfect. Even though they stuttered more than the first person, they are happy with their speech, which allows them to persevere for the long run towards public speaking. The thing with public speaking is a lot of people, they overcome their speech anxiety, but after some time, they quit. They quit because as they were going on in their process, they weren't building a love for public speaking. They were just kind of going through the motions. You don't want to be that kind of person because as you go through public speaking or anything that deals with humans, any form of communication skills, you want to start enjoying the process more. And hopefully by learning the Pratfall Effect and understanding that imperfections are not only okay, it's beneficial, hopefully this allows you to feel more relaxed when you are communicating with other people. You're transitioning from the brain to the heart. And the final disclaimer that I want to make is that the Pratfall Effect is not an excuse to be lazy. It's not okay to get on the public speaking stage and be like, all right guys, I didn't prepare, so let me just wing it, and just say a bunch of nonsense. You still want to do a good job, but your intention is on something brand new now. Your intention is more on the heart, is more on providing value, not only for others, but for yourself as well, rather than just focusing on the words and becoming robotic. If you can apply the Pratfall Effect to your life, then you start reconditioning a belief towards mistakes which were programmed into you during school. During school, a lot of the times, if you make mistakes, what happens is you get a big fat F. But in the real world, when you make mistakes, you gather data. All data that you can introspect on later and learn from. Because a little bit of experience beats a whole bunch of reading books without experience. Combine the two, and now you become a deadly force. Leverage the Pratfall Effect in the world of communication skills, and I guarantee you, the life of a heart-based communicator is much better than the brain-based communicator who overthinks all the small things. Imperfection beats perfection in the communication skills world. Keep on saying this to yourself until eventually you start living it. Thank you for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.